It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host, Smitty. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. While you're there, go check out our pinned post on X and our description of every show. We have links in there. The top link is going to be year 6 of Rock Around the 412. Crazy that we're only 6 days, actually, no, 5 days away as of this coming out. 6 days as a recording, away for donations to continue to roll in for year 6. We're closing in on $6,000 this year, which is absolutely nuts. I mean, the numbers of people that donate and the numbers that people are willing to donate, it amazes us every single year. So we want to thank everybody that's donated so far. But over these next 5 days, until December 11th, which is the hard cutoff, we're still going to ask people to share the message and share the GoFundMe, donate if you can, and just spread it as much as you can over this next week. Because we want to continue to push that as much as we can. But if you want to go check that out, like I said, it's the pinned post on X. It's also in the description of every show, whether you're on a listening platform like Spotify or Apple Music, or you are on YouTube. It's in the description of those shows. So go check that out. And we also have a Facebook and an Etsy link for our small local business. It is our friend Haley Wagner's business, Everything Custom Designs. It's Christmas time. And, if you follow her Facebook or her Etsy, I don't know how Etsy works, but if you follow her Facebook, it's at least she's got a lot of Christmas clothing going on. So if you want to get a gift or you need some holiday cheer and you need some holiday swag, go hit her up. She can also hook you up with a customized stocking that has your names on it or your children's names on it. And she could also get you a kind of like a Santa sack that you can either display the gifts in or whatever you want to do with it. You can do whatever you want with it, but you can get it from her. And if you don't want Christmas stuff, you can also get like gifts for whether you want Around the 412 merch, Pittsburgh merch, any other type of merch. Just go ahead and hit her up. She'll hook you up with it. But like I said, Facebook, Etsy link, along with the Rockin' Around the 412 link, all in the description of every single show.
And it has been for months, and this is the last week that we'll be talking about Rockin' Around the 412 on here. So yeah, get involved in some way. If you can donate, great. If you can't, at least share it. You never know whose eyes and ears you're going to put on the mission and be able to donate. So thanks in advance to everybody that hasn't donated yet and is going to. And of course, a huge thank you to everybody that already has. As I mentioned on the Steelers show, if you are somebody that watches both, there is one last family that we kind of have like waiting on standby to see how much we're going to be able to help out. So any further donations probably going to go to them. So if you can donate, be greatly appreciated. Somebody that I went to school with, graduated the year before me, married into a family with a few kids already. And then they've had a couple. So they have 5 children, and it's somebody that is, again, I know, you guys might think that I'm old, 28. I feel old too. Think about this, a 29-year-old already with 5 kids. Tough position to be in, and, figuring out how to make sure that those kids get the Christmas that they deserve. So donate if you can. Please share the mission. But yeah, 26 kids from the Salvation Army, and then 5 additional kids so far, hopefully another 5 to add to that. Quick math. What is that? 26 plus 5 is 31, and then 36 hopefully. So we've helped out 31 kids. We'd like to be able to help out 36. Hey, listen, I went to an
we got the flash over here. Talk about quick math. Holy cow.
No, what's weird is I'm normally really good with doing that, but I don't know if it's looking directly into a camera and trying to do
man says he's really good at doing that, but ask me what's 26 plus 5.
Well, no, because I was also trying to do the 5 on top of it, so I could have just said 10.
Oh, so 26 plus 10.
Yeah. And that would have been a lot easier.
Somehow that made it worse.
It did make it worse. As in my head, as I was saying, I was like, wait, that's going to make it worse because it's 36. Let's move on and talk about something even somehow worse than that math, which is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Their power play specifically much worse than that. But we can talk about the stretch of hockey that they've had recently. Let's start out on a good note. I was calling this the Tristan Jarry game, this game against Tampa Bay, which was the first game that happened after our last recording. And, they get too early, Tampa Bay does. And, Jarry was still good, even despite Tampa Bay scoring those first 2 in this game. But man, he just turned on another level, kept the Penguins in this game, allowed them to find their footing. They turned it up a bit, and then Tampa Bay pulls their goalie. Jarry sees the opportunity in front of him to take that shot, and right down the pipe. It was like Chris Boswell perfectly splitting the uprights. Tristan Jarry right down the center of that net. Beautiful to see. As beautiful as an empty net goal as you could have, like a one hopper directly in the middle of the net. And we know Tristan's been waiting for that one. Like he's been chomping at the bit to get that one, and it was awesome to see. He's been lights out in net, but to add that to it, really good start to the season for him.
Really good start to the season, and specifically in this game, he made 39 saves off of 41 shots. The team was allowing a lot of shots in front of him, and he was stepping up to the task in that game. He was incredible. And like you just said, I think he's had a really great season so far. Underrated, I feel like, to a lot of Penguins fans. I don't feel like they'll probably give him enough credit that he deserves. Especially in this recent stretch of games that we've had. Yeah, I think he's been really good, even though the Penguins have been losing some games. But in that Tampa Bay game specifically, to have the saves and saving 39 of 41, and then to top it all off with a goalie goal, the first goalie goal in Pittsburgh Penguins franchise history, which honestly, I did not know that. I
thought Barrasso had one for some reason.
I knew Fleury didn't because he had tried for years, but I thought I didn't know that he was going to be the first one, and it turns out that he is. I think that was amazing and an awesome, like, just a crescendo into that moment for the entire game. And you could just see the excitement of not only just like the fans, but also even like the people on the bench, not even the guys that were on the ice with Jarry. Like, it is a goalie goal, so you know how special that moment is. And that, like you said, like that just encapsulated that whole night for Tristan Jarry. It was an incredible night in goal, but also to be able to score a goal and get on that goal sheet. And selfishly, in my head, I thought, wow, now I have a signed puck of the only player in franchise history to score a goalie goal. But yeah, it was awesome.
Goals save above expected this season. Tristan Jarry 11.8, Alex Nedeljkovic 4.9, Magnus Hellberg 1.6. They've all been above 0. They're not negative, which is good compared to last year, right? Tristan Jarry top 4 in the entire league in goals save above expected. As a team, they're top 7. The problem has not been in net this year, like we thought maybe it would be. And the problem also hasn't been the top line. The second line has gone cold, but they, Gino, Reilly, Smith, at one point, they were part of this too, obviously, with that top line. But right now, it's basically a one-line team with what they have in net and not getting much else. And what's crazy is they could still be winning games this way if they had a league average power play. And how many times are we going to have this discussion? I mean, it's kind of like talking about the Steelers offense, right? Because you're going to have the same questions game in and game out.
Yeah.
You're going to have the same questions asked to the coaches game in and game out. You're going to have the same conversations on social media with your friends, whatever it might be, game in and game out, because it's not producing, for one. And two, it doesn't even look like they're trying anything different other than other personnel being out on the ice. It looks the exact same despite who was out there. And that to me is just not either. I don't know if it's incompetence or what it is. They are just running into a wall, basically head first over and over again, because they're not accomplishing anything. And if they don't win that opening zone draw, they're probably not even entering the offensive zone because their zone entries are so bad. There are so many problems with this power play.
They're horrible. Yeah. They have resulted to having to dump and chase the puck. And if they don't win the chase, then they have to basically get shot out of the zone and do it all over again. They do not know how to enter the zone on the power play, and that is one of the Achilles heels. I won't even say it is the Achilles heel. It's one of the Achilles heels of the power play. There's several, but not even being able to get into the zone is the biggest problem of actually starting your power play. Because like you said, if they don't win that opening faceoff, you don't know that they're necessarily going to get another offensive chance on the power play, which is crazy to even say. They were 0 for 20 when we talked a week ago. Now they are 0 for their last 29. Over the last 3-game stretch, they were 0 for 1 against Tampa Bay. And then they combined over the 2 games 0 for 8 against Philadelphia. 0 for 5 on the Saturday game and 0 for 3 on Monday.
I mean, how do you just keep doing the same thing? That's my question. How do you just keep? Again, I understand that they've maybe reshuffled the deck here, reshuffled some furniture on the deck of the Titanic is probably a better way to put it because it's a sinking ship right now. That power play. I understand that they throw Chris Letang out on there, so they got 2 defensemen now, maybe switching positions a little bit, but at its core, the power play is still trying to do the same thing, and nobody wants to take initiative. It doesn't look like on that power play. Nobody wants to be the trigger man of the power play. They don't look dangerous. They're just passing the puck around on the perimeter. Even when they do have zone time, there's nothing threatening about anything that they're doing. The defense is just packing it in front of them, and they're throwing the puck around on the perimeter or trying some cross ice pass that has 0% chance of getting to the recipient. I mean, it's a broken power play right now. And I don't think that there's just like one thing that can be said or done to fix it. But again, it goes back to last week. I know the answer isn't doing the same thing over and over again like they have. So I don't know what needs to be done, but I know what doesn't need to be done. And that's nothing. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it, but they've scored 5 goals this year, 5v4. They've given up 3 goals, 5v4. Meaning with 5-on-4 advantage, not shorthanded 5v4. They've scored 5 goals with a 5-on-4 advantage. They've given up 3 goals with a 5-on-4 advantage.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I said this last week, and I continue to say it now. I much prefer watching the team play 5-on-5 as opposed to whenever they're on the power play. Whenever they're on the power play, I might as well go to the kitchen and grab something to eat because absolutely nothing is going to go in their favor. That is the bathroom break. Forget the commercial. I want to watch the commercial. I don't want to watch the Penguins power play. It's ridiculously and grossly bad. It is awful. For the last 29. You're about to be 0 for 30, and guess what? You get to play Tampa Bay again. Except this one's in Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
you're about to be down in Florida. You're going to be 0 for 30. I am confident in saying that. You're not going to score your next power play. So I just want to know, what's the limit? How far can this go? Can they reach 50? Can they reach 0 for 50? And honestly, if we're 0 for like 42 in like a couple weeks or in a week or so, I want 50. Like now I'm rooting against our power play because I want to see how bad they can actually be.
Do we know what the longest stretch is without a power play goal or the most? Okay, so look at this though. The Penguins are 11-10-3 on the season, 6th place in the Metro, 7th if you look at the points percentage. But I feel like there's a minimum of 4 games here that have been decided entirely by their power play. Like that is the difference right now between them being on the outside or the inside of the playoffs. And I know that, like, should we be talking about the playoffs this early in the season, like just past the quarter mark of it? I don't know, but like these are in division games that we're talking about too, back-to-back games against Philly here that we lost both in overtime. In my opinion, lucky to get a point in both of these with the way that they played. So I don't know. I'm at the point now with this team where if you're not getting anything besides your top line and goaltending, your power play looks the way that it has. This second line's obviously got to figure something out. Maybe, I know he wasn't scoring, but I still think, Rickard Rakell is going to be a welcome addition back to the lineup when he does come back. I don't know. I don't know what, again, I don't have the answers to these things, but it's clearly not working right now, and continuing to do the same thing over and over again, I don't think it's magically going to fix what their issues are.
And I still want to know, we kind of touched on it last week, like who is the person making the decisions for the
we don't actually know if it's Todd Reardon.
Is it Todd Reardon or is it Mike Sullivan? I want to know the answer to that question. And also the answer to the previous question, what is the record? 51 power play attempts without
for anybody?
For anybody.
Penguins record? Okay.
No, that is anybody. That is the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Are the Penguins at their record right now? Is this the longest they've gone without?
I don't know.
I'm curious about that. Because, I mean, if you look at, obviously there were some really down years for the Penguins, but I wouldn't think that there's any stretch within the last, decade-ish that they've had a worse stretch of the power play? It's
I'm
probably gonna be
trying
hard
to
to find. I mean, that's not as easy
yeah,
to find as like league
it's
wide thing. So
it's more specific, so I'm not
Mhm.
entirely sure.
Right.
But you
Is
know
there
what
something?
what's sad is somehow, no matter how bad their power play is, they are worse on the penalty kill. Or not the penalty kill, the shootout. They are worse
Oh
in the
my.
shootout than they are on the power play.
Yeah, and man, haven't been very good in the overtime periods either. I mean, I know that they got that first one to a shootout because of the goaltending, but that probably should have been ended by Philly in overtime. And then yesterday's was ended in overtime with a 2-on-1. By the way, have we seen a worse Sidney Crosby shift in our lives than him in overtime
Than the
last night?
overtime one.
My goodness. I mean, obviously, he's a guy that deserves the longest leash out of anybody, not only because of what he's done, but what he's still continuing to do this season. Where would they be without him? But man, was that a very, very bad shift in overtime from him.
Yeah. And I saw a lot of people coming at Danny for pointing it out on Twitter. But he's not exempt from blame just because he's the best player.
Yeah.
And he's not exempt from
Okay, so
criticism.
if we're winning a game 3-3 and Crosby decides, screw it, I want to get off the ice and just fires one into his own net to end the game, that's fine because of what he's done this year. Like what are we doing? Because that's basically what he did last night. I mean, that turnover very easily could have been a goal. And then on the like a face-off later in overtime, they have a 2-on-1 right off the draw just because of a lackadaisical play. Yeah, I mean, he was not good in overtime, very clearly. Point blank, I don't think he's above that criticism. But obviously, overall, him and Jake have been great. Rust, too. He's missed some time, and they didn't really miss a beat necessarily without him, but they've continued it rolling with him back in the lineup. Has there been something specifically that you've seen, though, all of a sudden, like I mentioned, with the second line going dry, whether it's, with Gino, with Reilly Smith, with whoever they're playing with in the absence of Rickard Rakell, whether that's been, Drew O'Connor right now, or we saw like a game of Nylander when O'Connor had to jump up to the top line when they didn't have Rust as well. What is it right now that those guys just all of a sudden aren't clicking the way that they were early in the season? Reilly Smith and Gino specifically, those two.
Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. Because I feel like neither of them are like super hard like forecheckers, so it's not like that has changed. As far as like, I feel like if I was examining something like Crosby's line, like I look at his wingers and how hard they're forechecking, that's something that is clear cut that Crosby likes, and that's something that you could look at. With Malkin's line, I'm not entirely sure what the drought is. I mean, maybe it is just simply a line going cold for a moment. And even despite the lack of scoring, maybe Rickard Rakell had more to do with their scoring than we actually thought.
Yeah, like
Because
the
he
play
wasn't
driving aspect of things.
because he wasn't
Yeah.
actually ending up on the score sheet. Maybe it was actually serving some offensive upside, just having him out there and driving offense, not necessarily getting on the box score. So that also could be a factor into it as well, just not having that top line winger too.
Could be. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like every time he touches the puck right now, Reilly Smith, it's just jumping off his stick. Like, I don't know if it's just bad luck or what is going on, but he has not been very good as of late. Gino's been left off the score sheet, probably largely in part due to that, and also, not having Rickard Rakell. Nothing against like Drew O'Connor. I know he's, potted a couple goals this year and everything like that too, but I like him more in a third or fourth line role than obviously playing up in the top six. The guy that I have not enjoyed watching at all this season is Ryan Graves. And, the guy that brought us into the show here, Josh Getzoff, very vocal about wanting Ryan Graves on this hockey team. So first and foremost, Josh, what the hell is going on with Ryan Graves? Because this is your boy. What are we doing? But are you in panic mode with this yet? Because obviously a pretty long commitment made here to Ryan Graves by the Penguins. And I think when you take into consideration the contract he was given, this looks like the worst deal of Kyle Dubas's offseason to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily in panic mode yet. But I will say, like, it is concerning to me how poor he has looked. Like, it's definitely noticeable. I don't necessarily think I'm hitting panic mode. And I was going to say, whenever you're talking about that, because I knew the question was going to be asked, I was going to relate it to something, but it's a little different because we traded for this guy, not signed him in free agency. But like, whenever I think of, like, panic mode, I think of, well, what if, like, the Penguins hit panic mode the first year of James Neal? and then they didn't get the James Neal after the fact. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Like Ryan Graves is going to have that type of turnaround, but
Sure.
it is a brand new team.
What about
I understand it's a small, like as far as like we're 30 or we're like 30 games in, or not even 30 games in. We're like 20 something games in. So it's like a small-ish sample size, but I'm still going to give him the benefit of the doubt for at least for the little bit, for the next little bit, at least for like half a season to really adjust to not just a new team, but a new pairing, playing with Chris Letang. Like I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt just because I look at a guy like, imagine if people wrote off James Neal after that first year with the Penguins when we traded for him, that we wouldn't get the following year either. So.
Yeah. And that's fair. Honestly, from a defensive perspective, when you mentioned the James Neal thing, I kind of thought of Paul Martin, who came in here and the fans weren't a big fan of, but he carved out a very steady career for himself in Pittsburgh as well. I don't know. Obviously, the early returns have not been good. I fear that we're looking at a player that's playing in the top 4 that should probably be a third pairing defenseman. And with a commitment that they gave to him, it goes back to, again, how much when you invest that term and that amount of capital into somebody, how long is the leash going to be? You feel like it's going to be longer. But at the same time, we've seen Sullivan mix it up. Like we've seen Letang playing a lot with John Ludwig. We've seen like Ryan Shea and Ryan Graves, which that can't happen, by the way. Like even if you want to play Letang and Ludwig together, you got to find a better partner for Graves than Ryan Shea, if that's going to be what you want to do. Which I don't know what that is. If it's Rui when he comes back or if it's POJ, I'm not sure. But anyway, we've seen Sullivan be willing to, kind of mix and match with those pairings that aren't Pettersson and Carlson. That one clearly he doesn't want to touch. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm at with Ryan Graves. Obviously, he's been disappointing to me. It scares me more than anything else. Again, going back to, there's plenty of guys that have underperformed on this team, but they don't have that like 6-year commitment that Ryan Graves does.
True.
So that's really what's playing into it for me, is thinking like, okay, it's this bad right now. If this was a guy on, a couple-year deal or something like that, then sure. Like I think it's swallow. Like you can swallow that pill and say maybe he bounces back, but because he's got a 6-year commitment to him right now, it's just really hard to digest what we're watching.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. The contract does make it tough to swallow and makes it, I feel like makes people more critical too, because you have that contract. Like people are going to be critical of you, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. I'm just saying like you were going to more so like eye in on guys like that.
That was supposed to be, we were looking at it like, as great as he was during his time here, I think everybody was looking at it like, okay, here's your Brian Dumoulin upgrade. And he hasn't been that. So when you give a guy a 6-year commitment to be the replacement for a guy that, despite obviously not having playing at that same level, was very good for, a half a decade for the Penguins, you got a little bit to live up to, I think, there. And Ryan Graves hasn't lived up to that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I'm interested to see how he bounces back. I'm interested to see what the team does. We talked about it. They got a Florida trip coming up here, Tampa, and then Florida. And then is there one more game before, or no? Is that the only two that we'll be talking about?
It depends. It really depends on when we just decide to record. If we record on Monday, because it's tricky because we normally record on Tuesday or Wednesdays because we don't have Penguin games on both days. But the following week we have back-to-back on Tuesday and Wednesday. So
yeah.
If we record on Monday, then yes, those will be the only games that we're talking about is the Florida trip.
Okay. What should be interesting, we mentioned they just played Tampa. They played them pretty well, got out to a slow start, but Jarry allowed them to do so. And then they played pretty solidly for the next 2 periods. Florida, have we played them yet this year? Or is this our first meeting?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's the first time.
So that'd be interesting. Obviously, represented the Eastern Conference in the Cup last year. Solid team. What are they doing so far this year, though? Because I know they didn't get off to the best start, but I don't know if they found their footing or what.
Let's see. The Florida Panthers are second in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah. Okay. So
they are 14-8-2.
Yeah. Somewhere along the line, they must have had a nice little stretch. Oh yeah, here it is. They won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They won 8 out of 10. They had a nice November. Yeah. So 5-4-1 in their last 10, but they had a 10-game stretch where they went 8-1-1. So that's how they got back in the mix of things. So yeah, Florida, very talented team. Going to be interesting to see how how the Penguins can stack up. Sorry. How the Penguins can stack up with the Florida teams over the course of this week. Any predictions for the Penguins? You don't think they score a power play goal? I'm guessing.
I don't think they score a power play.
You're not willing to go that bold.
No. I will go bold, and I'll say they give up a shorthanded goal.
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know if that's bold.
Maybe that's not even bold. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's not bold. It's just sad.
Maybe my bold prediction, since I said their name, is that the Steelers score a power play goal before the Penguins do.
The Steelers score a power play goal.
Man, I am so down on this power play. It's insane. Like, how did we get to this point with Sidney Crosby, Evgeni Malkin, Erik Karlsson, Chris Letang, Jake Guentzel, Bryan Rust, Reilly Smith, like even guys on the second unit? Like, how? How do you not score?
That's the crazy thing too. That's the crazy thing is like it's not even just your first unit that's not scoring; it's your second unit too. It's the entire thing. Normally, we've had in the past where it feels like our second power play unit is scoring better or scoring at a much like faster rate than our top unit is for some reason. We are not even getting that. Like nothing. They have nothing when it comes to power play.
Yeah. My bold prediction will be over these next two games, Nylander scores his first of the season.
Okay. I like
and
it.
You're saying they're giving up a shorty in one of these two games.
They're going to give up a shorty.
Oh, brother. Yeah.
I could say bolder and say they're going to give one in both, but I don't think that'll happen.
If that were to happen and they didn't score one, and I assume that they'd probably be at 5-on-4, they would have as many 5-on-4 goals for as against.
Have they let up a shorthanded goal in this like 30 power play stretch or a 29 power play stretch?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They have?
Yeah. I'm certain they have.
So the other team has scored more than your power play has over this 0 for stretch.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I'm willing to put money on that they have. I couldn't tell you
that's
exactly.
So bad. That is so bad. What, you're going to look for it right now?
I mean, I would like to, but at the same time, I don't know how long this is going to take, so probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Was there anything else?
No, that's it. It's just a sad hockey team, and I feel bad for our goalies who are actually playing well, and the team in front of them doesn't always play well. They don't always score.
I mean, yeah, because we mentioned Jarry, like Nedeljkovic has played awesome too. Like,
yeah, I just said goalies. Like everybody's played well, and as far as in net, but it's everything in front of them that is just the disappointing part. And we're riding into another season. Actually, this will be a new feeling. We're riding into a season where if we actually end up making playoffs, it might turn into the team in front of the goalie is actually the reason that we get knocked out in the first round, not necessarily the goalie.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting turn of events this season. They gave up a shorthanded goal November 16th against the Devils in a 5-2 loss. I don't think they've scored a power play goal since then, but I found that as a shorthanded goal. So for sure then.
Well, there you go.
Yep. Tyler mentioned at the beginning, but this is your last chance to get involved with Rocking Around the 412. The link is in the description of the show. Whether you're watching it here, whether you're listening somewhere else, wherever that might be, you can find the link to the GoFundMe, read the full mission there. But this is year 6 of doing it. We've raised over $30,000 since we started this mission, providing Christmas to as many kids in the 724-412 areas as we can. Also, last year, we partnered up with the East Rochester, PA Salvation Army to adopt kids off their Salvation Army Angel Tree in the name of our late friend Dalton Keene, with the help from his girlfriend Kaylee, their daughter Isla. We were able to adopt 26 kids off of that Angel Tree this year. Got every single thing on those lists for those kids, as well as a couple families that we were able to help out. A single mother of 3 little girls, a single mother of 2 boys, and also I got a family on standby, graduated from Central Valley, the same high school as me, the year before me, 5 kids, 29 years old, and needs some help at Christmas time. We'd love to be able to provide that. Going to be able to do something for sure, but hey, the more you guys donate, the more we're going to be able to do. So keep those donations rolling in. We can accept those up until the 11th of December. So whenever you're watching or listening to this, if it is not December 11th yet, you can still get involved. Share the mission, tell a friend to tell a friend. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of this. Tyler and I always talk about it. It's our baby. It's the most important thing we do. Love getting on here and talking about sports, but there are real world things that mean a lot more than sports at the end of the day. This would be one of those. Also, our friend Haley Wagner, the link to her small business is down below. That's the Facebook and the Etsy. Everything custom designs, everything from t-shirts, hoodies, this time of year, stockings, Christmas bags. You can get a Santa sack to put all your kids' Christmas gifts in one big bag under the tree on Christmas Day, whatever you want to do with it. You can get a lot of different things from Haley, just not one of the things on my head. No hats. Sorry. Apparently takes a different machine to do so. She's not had the capability of doing that at this time. So she can do a lot of different things. Again, just not hats. So, but holler at her again, Facebook, Etsy, both down below. For Tyler, for Smitty, this has been the Around the 412 Penguin Show. Go check out another video that's popping up on your screen right now, and we will talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.